Good evening and welcome to our regular meeting of council this Monday, November 18th. Go to call to order. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that November 18th, 2024 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 7:02 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. We'll all rise for the singing of our national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Approval of agenda. Are there any amendments?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, we have several items that have been requested to be pulled from the consent agenda for discussion, those being item 10E, the resolution regarding updates to the Municipal Elections Act, and item 10G, the resolution calling for investment in municipal infrastructure for Eastern Ontario's small and rural communities.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Moving on to the approval of minutes. Were there any errors or omissions noted? Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the minutes of the November 4th, 2024 regular council meeting, including the closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. All those in favor? Carried. We will move to delegations and presentations. Habitat for Humanity Critical Repairs Program. Mrs. Cares.
Thank you, Mayor, very much. Okay, so thank you all so much for having me this evening. My name is Brecken Cares. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for Habitat for Humanity. And yes, I did marry my husband strictly for his last name to be a fundraiser who cares. I worked that into my wedding vows, actually. It was highly appreciated. But I am here tonight to share our new critical repairs project. It's going to be easier. Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, so pretty much everyone here already knows who Habitat for Humanity is. We bring our communities together, which in our case is Stormont, Dundas, Glengarry, and Cornwall, except for like Dalkeith and Iroquois because we're delineated by postal codes, so why not? But we work to build strength, stability, and independence. It is worth noting that previously our mission statement said self-reliance instead of independence, but in this day and age, self-reliance means a lot of different things. It's really all about that independence now. And this is all through affordable housing solutions. If you're familiar with us, you know that we build safe, affordable homes, but that's no longer enough. We need to look at a larger portfolio. So we are very, very lucky that for 25 years, we have built 21 homes, 3 of which were completed in this year alone. And we do this with the support of all of the Habitat brands. Habitat for Humanity International, we all know Jimmy Carter. Habitat for Humanity Canada, we have a fabulous new CEO, Mr. Pedro Berrada. And then our local Habitat affiliates, we are one of 49. And like I said, we've been around for almost 26 years now. So of the 3 homes that we completed this year, actually, we completed our first semi-detached just up the road in Maxville. So we're very, very happy to have another Glengarry build under our belt. And we were honored to build our first South Glengarry home in Lancaster in 2017 on land donated by this very township. And I'm happy to report that Manon and her 3 children are flourishing. And in fact, they are now a multi-generational household because they were able to complete an addition and move her mom into the house with them as well, which is really, when we're talking about that holistic view, it just makes sense. So obviously, we rely on the partnership of our local municipal governments for land donations and waive development fees. And we thank the township for that previously. I'm here tonight about critical repairs, but of course, we always hope that you keep us in mind for any appropriate surplus land for single or multi-residential. We know that there are some things in the works in Green Valley as well. So that's just one of our families that we've built for, and I like to always use them as the example of this is what a Habitat family is supposed to be. In 2019, we built for Shane and Ashley Lozo, and their 3 boys. They came from an absolutely awful situation, and today Shane has been able to go back to school. Ashley works at the hospital. All 3 boys are doing fabulous in school and sports, and their oldest son actually was a participant in the Cornwall Police Summer Student Program. So they've definitely all come a long way in a few short years. So, why does housing matter? We practice sustainability in all aspects of our agency, much like South Glengarry is when you're considering your new strat plan. Yes, I did take a quick peek at that. But whether it's our build program, our restore, our remove project, or soon our critical repairs program, sustainability is key for us going forward. And when we say, why does housing matter, I feel silly asking it because really at this point in the national crisis, it is, there are myriad of answers to a very loaded question here. So let me throw some statistics, and these are fairly local. So keep in mind, these are from StatsCan, but they use Cornwall as a center point. We have to consider that most of the rural stats are similar, if not a little bit more dire. So 11.8% of residents, and these are homeowners, have indicated that their homes need major repairs. 3.2% say that their homes cost more than 30% of their household income, was not suitable for their situation, and needed major repairs. And 3.9% are considered to be in core housing need. And that's a really high number when you consider ownership. When we talk about rentals, we're 17, 18, 19% core housing need for rentals and SD&G. But in ownership, that is a ridiculously high number when typically you see it under 2% across Canada. These are stats that Habitat Canada pulls for us, but the big one here is the fact that 9 in 10 Canadians believe there is a shortage of affordable housing really speaks to what we all perceive. However, when we all work together for affordable housing, and whether that be through home ownership or maintaining affordable housing, we see all of these things here. The other big part is that as our partner families use less social services, those become available for other families that probably need to access them and maybe didn't know how to previously. So, how are we helping? We've already gone over this a little bit, but the big thing is, this is why we are launching our critical repairs program. The program has already been piloted by Habitat for Humanity affiliates throughout Canada, so we've got a solid foundation, and now it's our turn. As we continue to see the impacts of the national housing crisis here more and more, we know we have to do more beyond building homes. We hear too often that people have to choose between something as crucial as food or hydro. And how do you make that decision when you have something like the need to replace a furnace hanging over you too? Especially when we're talking about the rural communities, it's not as simple as a hookup to Enbridge, right? We're talking propane out here. We're talking your insurance isn't going to cover you anymore because you still have oil. You need help with wood because you're still heating primarily with wood. These are those other elements that we're talking about. So by adding the critical repairs program to our portfolio, we are able to expand who we are helping. Whether it's seniors, families, or other vulnerable populations, we are able to serve more people who are able and willing to partner with us. But what is a critical repair, By definition, a critical repair is something deemed essential for a resident to maintain a legal, safe, habitable home. Or it can be an accessibility modification, which we see more and more as people attempt to age in place. So, why now is the big question that we get asked. Well, we just finished 3 homes. We need to take a break from building homes. It takes a lot of work. But we have heard firsthand from one of our key stakeholders, Mark, that a program like this would be crucial for his mother. In his case, she's lucky that she has Mark, her son, nearby to help her out with those, often unexpected repairs. But not everyone has a Mark, especially when we're talking rural communities, right? Families tend to live a little bit further out. So, with our critical repairs program, our team will assess our projects to make sure that the repair or modification is appropriate for the home, and then we complete the work. Much like our home build, we are the builder and the bank once again. The homeowner will have their mind at ease, knowing that they are working with an invested and trusted community partner, but the intent of this is not to cause financial burden. We recognize that these homeowners will have some form of equity in their home. Now, eligibility criteria is being finalized. We are working with other local Habitat affiliates to find out really where this needs to sit. But key elements will include that the home must be the primary residence of the owner. The owner must be considered low income. I don't know if that's going to be LICO or LIM yet. And property taxes must be up to date. Obviously, we all need to be compliant here. And there must be insurance on the home, and we must be able to get a permit if necessary, depending on what the modification is. Finally, the owner must be willing to partner with Habitat for Humanity. So, for example, we want to be able to help seniors with decades of home ownership under their belts who may have a lot of equity but not have the cash at hand to pay for often unexpected repairs. Not only will we be able to complete the repair, but we will be able to give the homeowner a sense of pride and maintain their dignity while staying safely in their own home. I want to share a really interesting statistic, and it depends on who you interpret it through, but so it has been estimated that every new affordable housing unit being put into stock means we are actually losing 10 at the same time. So this is really about helping to preserve the affordable housing stock. I drive number 2 every day to work from Williamsburg to Cornwall. And along number 2, there was an older, affordable home. One day I was driving home and all of a sudden the house was gone. Big old stone farmhouse, and it was gone. Because everybody knows everybody, my husband recognized the excavator, called up the operator, and why is that gone? There had been a family in there. Well, because this had been considered an affordable home by current standards, but they wanted something different, so they knocked it down and they're building something else, which now is no longer technically affordable because you're talking about your new mortgage, new considerations with it, with MPAC and everything else. So we have now lost an affordable home when it was still technically a viable structure. So this is what we're seeing a lot, especially in our rural communities. So we need your help to preserve that affordable housing stock. So the overall number of projects to be completed will be dictated on the value that we are able to raise within our communities. Much like our homeownership program, this is not a handout. Homeowners will be responsible to pay back an interest-free loan to Habitat, which will then be used towards other affordable housing projects. Sustainable. But if this would cause financial strain to the homeowner, we can make other arrangements, such as a lien. We are very lucky. We've got a fantastic build committee that is, flat out stacked, so we've got really great people to help us make that happen. Project costs will be capped at $12,000 each to keep in line with the Ontario Renovates program, but we know that not all work will max out those budgets. But we also know that sometimes you open up a wall and that is a lot more than you thought it was. So, when we work locally, we do our best to use local supplies and any of our subs that are necessary, further stimulating our local economy. We are appealing to all of our townships and the City of Cornwall to support this new program with $10,000 each, meaning that that money will go towards completing projects in South Glengarry. But why am I here asking for $10,000 if the project will self-fund? Because, like everything in this world, we need to seed that pot. The long-term sustainability of the project will mean we are able to offer critical repairs support for our community for years to come. But if we don't have the money to start with, we can't get started. So please keep in mind, like I said, any support received from South Glengarry is earmarked for South Glengarry projects. Yes, and sorry, we have received support already from the United Way. We have received a $25,000 injection from the United Way to help us seed that pot, but we know that we need to be closer to $100,000 to make this viable. The project will launch officially in 2025, and once we have more concrete selection criteria, we will be reaching out to all of our townships as well from our Family Services Committee to see if you guys are hearing of anybody who are having these issues. We know that we are getting phone calls every week from people that are either caseworkers, need to support a family member, the family member themselves, who need help with a roof. The furnace is gone. I got a call from somebody who's supporting an individual living in a camper trailer, and he's about to go through a second winter without heat. So we are getting these calls. It's strictly anecdotal evidence, but we know we need to do more, and we need your support to do that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions or comments from around the table? Oh, Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. Cares, for coming to speak with us. My question, when you were referring to like local contractors or subcontractors doing work, how does it work in terms of donations or man hours, either of materials or of labor for projects, like not new home builds, but renovations?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, different affiliates have done it different ways, so this is some of the little tweaks that we're still working on. If a contractor or sub were to donate the time, we'd be able to write them the letter, basically, so it's the equivalent of the tax receipt that they can then utilize for whatever their terms would be. However, much like with our home ownership program, our partner families purchase the home at fair market value, regardless of the donations, right, that go into it. So we work to build the house as cost effective as possible because we're selling it at fair market value. In this case, I'm going to use the term partner family, but the homeowner would be responsible to pay back the cost of, kind of that market cost of what the renovation would be. So again, in working with the contractors, it would be as much as possible to provide them that sponsorship publicity as well. But it's a little bit different, and I can admit those are details we don't have completely fine-tuned yet.
And this request would be for, like, as you said, one time, kind of like seed money? It wouldn't be an annual request, or would it be an annual request?
At this time, it's not our intention for it to be an annual request. It really is, seed at this point, because if we're able to be re-stimulating the fund, there should be no need to come back. However, depending on what that looks like, if we get a glut of requests for South Glengarry, I'm not discounting that we may come back, but that would only be if we were overwhelmed with requests, would be my best guess.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we will have, we'll be going into budget, so it might be something that we can bring into budget with other considerations or a staff report. We don't make decisions tonight, we just take the presentation. So seeing no other questions of council, we will say thank you very much, and that family in the, I guess it's the west quadrant of Lancaster. You are right to point out they have done very well, and I remember our former mayor Lyle Warden had helped out, and he was always a fan and a big cheerleader. And Councillor Bougie did too. Okay, sorry to miss him. So Councillor Bougie and Lyle had helped out. So they speak very highly of that opportunity. So thank you very much for what you do in our community. All right, so we will move into bylaws. 8A, seasonal sidewalk closure, North Lancaster. This is Ms. McDonald. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2024 be received and that Bylaw 2024-73 being a bylaw to seasonally close the sidewalk on the north side of County Road 18 in North Lancaster from November 1st through April 1st annually be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 18th day of November 2024. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, this report before you is really a level of service question for council to deliberate. We are recommending administratively and operationally that the sidewalk be closed seasonally, just to help administration and operations with our winter operations during snow events. The report outlines some of the reasoning. It is maneuvering safely along the sidewalk, which is quite narrow. Our machine is about 60 inches wide with the blade, and the sidewalk is 47 to 59 inches, so the trackless machine falls off the sidewalk in a number of places. We scrape against east of Second Line Road over the drain. There's a little pedestrian handrail. We scrape that when we go by. It's damaging the handrail and also our machine. These sidewalks are last on our route, so we're not providing morning service for the L'Ange Gardien and afternoon service maybe if we're really efficient in our routes. And anecdotally, we haven't seen very many people out utilizing these sidewalks in the wintertime. In our staff report, I've put the vehicles per day that the counties have along this section of highway or roadway, just so council can see what the conflict could be. It is a recommendation to seasonally close it, but happy to continue to service it if council desires. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from council on this one? I suppose, would we get a lot of administrative questions about St. Raffles? Do we get a lot of comments about that sidewalk being closed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. I haven't had any questions in my 3 years with the township. And we had seasonally closed Warren Street sidewalk in Williamstown prior to removing it and providing additional pavement. And we didn't really receive any questions about that sidewalk closure either.
Thank you. Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. McDonald, for the report, and I'm sorry if this is in the report and I've already forgotten that I read it. But how are folks going to be advised ahead of time that this is occurring, and what was the past practice for the other ones?
Excuse me. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll send out a mailer like we did for Warren Street to everyone in North Lancaster, and it will also be posted in the papers. But through hang on, I believe the bylaw, let me just flip. Part of the stipulation in the bylaw is that we seasonally notify people also. Is that true? There we go. It is conducted, approved municipal communications methods. So we're holding off on publishing the St. Raffles one just until we know if we're bundling them together. And so the answer is yes. However, the Canada Post strike will impact our ability to direct mail. Thank you.
All right. Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Not sure what I'm going to say yet, but it just seems a shame to go backwards, but looking at the map, we don't look like we're very efficient, especially the overall map when you see two little stretches in Glen Walter and close to Somerstown, and then all the way up to, I don't know what order you guys do them in, maybe Glen Walter, I'm not sure how I would, there's a lot of distance in between. Is it a full day to do it? Like, how many miles is, and so I'm kind of wondering if like something like North Lancaster and and say Glen Walter and even maybe Green Valley, if we shouldn't be contracting it out or something, if there's somebody locally that could do that. And it just seems like the mileage that the trackless would have to do to get down there, it's going to take longer to drive there and back than it would to clean the sidewalk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's absolutely correct. So it's looking at the map that's included for everyone watching. It's included in the agenda package. I'm not sure the page, but our sidewalks are few and far between. Page 28. Excellent. So we do Lancaster, Williamstown. I believe we then jump down, grab more material, go up to Martintown, over St. Raffles, Green Valley, North Lancaster. So we're really zigzagging around the township.
May I ask a question too, just because you've got me thinking on that one? Previous to amalgamation, it was only Lancaster Village that had snow plowing, because I don't recall Williamstown. Like I recall going to school in deep snow as a kid. So was it the amalgamation that brought it, or did Williamstown have it too? Or maybe I just walked in the snow.
No, that's a really good question. In 2018, the minimum maintenance standards were revised to include a minimum maintenance standards for sidewalks. So in 2018, all municipalities were obligated to provide some kind of services for their sidewalks unless they do or prepare a bylaw such as this to seasonally close it.
Thank you. We'll go. Thank you for allowing that one, Deputy Mayor Lang.
You're the boss, eh? You can always. We don't float the trackless. It seems to me I see it driving around quite a bit in the wintertime. So, all right, thanks.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we drive it around. We do not float it. Floating it would take much longer, even though it seems kind of counterintuitive.
Councillor Jaworski.
So just on this thread, as we come into budget, if there is time and appetite to look at contracting out this service, I would be interested to know if there's savings to it. I'm not sure what's done locally, if other municipalities do operate similar than to us or not. There might be an interest, there might be a better model, maybe, because it doesn't, it seems to be a bit, it doesn't look efficient, that's for sure. Thanks.
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to speak again. When we contract out our snow clearing, we actually struggle to find contractors who are willing to service Green Valley and North Lancaster, so our municipal staff are servicing those areas like after. So I think that finding someone who would like to do sidewalks is unlikely, just since we struggle to find someone with for parking lots. And the second question is, what do other municipalities do? Many of them have a standing bylaw with a list of sidewalks that they close through the winter, and I'm happy to provide. I can't remember if it's South Stormont or South Dundas, but closures are not unheard of in SDNG to support operations. And we can always defer, and I can come back with more information.
If I can ask a question on insurance, is it likely the insurance requirements we have would stop a lot of, say, like this is a job I see, we just buy like a snow plow or a snow blower and get a kid to do it, and they'd be just chuffed to make money, and probably a little bit more money than they would make doing in their own driveway. But our insurance requirements, probably $5 million or $2 million, which would likely say they can't do it. Would there, I still think there's a way to investigate where we can purchase insurance on behalf of somebody to save money, and that's maybe not this conversation, but it does lend to like these not problems, opportunities, we'll say, where we can get more local, better service and cost us less. But I would be with Councillor Jaworski if there was a possibility to see if there's a better way to do it, and I don't know what that way is. But yeah, it's a lot of driving for a little bit of work, and yeah, closing sidewalks isn't fun, but maybe it makes sense. In Alberta, I understand that you as a homeowner are responsible for the sidewalk in front of you, which might not be popular, but I mean, it's I'd be having to do my dad's downtown because Mom wouldn't let him shovel that, so I'd be glad to take that mantle, and I would gladly do it. But sometimes you can empower your community that way too. So I guess you can look at a few things. I'm rambling, so is your hand up, or is that okay? Good. Thank you, Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I see this sidewalk as well as it's probably on the lighter use as far as the demographic in the village, although there is quite a few kids in there a lot of them being bust, I'm sure, but it's I don't like to see service go backwards. I'm along the lines of the Deputy Mayor Lang with that, but it's very frustrating personally to see that trackless driving around generally in not ideal conditions and running from one hamlet to another. I think we're very unique in the amount of hamlets we have and how spread out they are compared to, example, let's say Maxville, Alexandria, and then from there, I think they closed Dalkeith and some of those smaller hamlets where there isn't as much traffic on them. But it's I don't know that you'd find a contractor to do it just based on it's very like given the dimensions. Even I'm thinking myself, could I clean it? And even with the skid steer, I don't think you could. You'd just be falling off it, have the same issues, and that contractor's then responsible when their driver or themselves takes out that bridge or. It's not an ideal place or set up to do it, and I believe our contractors are held to our minimum standards? Yeah, so it would have to be salted, and a large snow event would have to be done multiple times. So I think I'm not against exploring an opportunity to find a contractor, but I think it's a little more than maybe to the mayor's suggestion of having a snow blower and somebody just walking it. It's almost a liability somebody takes for even cleaning part of it in goodwill. So, anyways.
Okay, so we would like, I guess, some investigation to how we can do this better. The matter at hand is to consider closing that sidewalk. So I read the resolution before. Does anybody have any, or we can defer it, or we can vote on it presently, because that's the matter at hand.
May I just,
Please do.
for clarification for council and everyone watching, we're seasonally closing for winter maintenance. The sidewalk itself is in great shape, so the sidewalk will remain and will be available. And if there's not snow, and as the snow melts, it can be walked on, but this is really to protect the municipality against liability should we not take the snow off of it. So it's not like a closure, it's a seasonal closure for maintenance purposes during the winter months only.
All right, so I guess I will put this to vote and we can make a decision then. So I'll read the resolution again. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-126 be received and that bylaw 2024-73 being a bylaw to seasonally close the sidewalk on the north side of County Road 18 in North Lancaster from November 1st through April 1st annually be read a first, second, third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 18th day of November. All those in favor? Carried. Moving to bylaws 8B, Glengarry Snowmobile Club License Agreement. Ms. Harbers, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-127 be received and that bylaw 2024-74 being a bylaw to enter into a license agreement with the Glengarry Snowmobile Club be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 18th day of November 2024. Ms. Harbers.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This report is to enter into an agreement with the Glengarry Snowmobile Club. It's my understanding that the trail along the Peanut Line has existed for many years. This is just to formalize that with an agreement. As mentioned in the report, we were approached by the club earlier this year to enter into an agreement, and I know that these types of agreements have been in our discussions informally, so I think administratively we're happy to see this move forward, and you will see the attached map that indicates the lands that are included in the agreement. So unless there are any questions, we are hoping to move forward, as I know that they have a meeting coming up, and they have seen the draft agreement and didn't have any concerns regarding this version of it. So unless there's any questions.
Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. Arbors. It's great to see this on the agenda. I think this is definitely a move in the right direction. My question was in the agreement itself, and because this is the Peanut Line and not an unopened road allowance, like, we have the bylaw for the unopened road allowance that sort of explains, like, if someone needs to make modifications, that the general manager of infrastructure has a certain amount of authority. In this, it says that, like, the Glendalers could make modifications with approval of the municipality. And so I'm just wondering, and I'm not, maybe they won't, or maybe there's no need, I don't know, maybe, but I'm just wondering what that process would be if they do need to make a change and how they get approval for that.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. That's a great question. That would be something, I guess it would depend on the level of change, that possibly it could be done just administratively depending on what it is. But if it is more significant, then it could come back to council depending on what it is.
And am I correct to read too that the Snowmobile Club does the maintenance? I always thought it was the Glendalers with their big things, but has it always been the Snowmobile Club, or do they both do it? Maybe that's an unfair question, though.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, there is a meeting tomorrow night. I'm on the executive, and we have been hoping to get this signed sooner than later, so, because we need to get it in to get our trails, the digital version of our trails up and running before snow flies. So I think it's great that this is moving forward. I don't think that there's anything that the Snowmobile Club would want to do on this trail, other than if there's stop signs or something missing, we would likely, and I think some of the stop signs up there at the far east end might have been put there by us in the past, but something like that, we would want to make sure they were at all the road crossing or something. And I don't know if the township, do we patrol it in the wintertime much for that sort of thing?
It's more of a, we do patrol it, but that's more in the summer months. And then the Glendale Winter Sports Club and also the Glengarry Snowmobile Club monitors it more in the wintertime. But if there is a sign missing, then we do have it reported and replaced.
Yeah. And I know the Glendalers do groom it in the wintertime, but we groom it as well at the Snowmobile Club. We would likely do more grooming towards the east end than the Glendalers would. They would do a lot more grooming to where their trail turns off, going north and south, which be before you get to 34. So the other end, I don't, maybe they do groom the other end once in a while, but the other end would be mostly this. So, and with the snowmobiles, they're not going to be on it if there isn't snowpack on it. So there's really nothing, like they're never going to disturb the gravel or anything, because if it gets down where there's no snow, Snowmobile Club's off the trails, and our map reports them all as closed at that point. And I do see in here we asked for 5,000 insurance, but the Snowmobile Club has 15 million insurance through the provincial organization, so everything is covered under that 15 million.
Thank you for that perspective. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just I guess a general comment in regards to this, because I know it will come up at some point, or it always does come up, and I know the deputy mayor's, you know, I'm sure well versed in having these conversations as well, just adjacent property owners and potential crop damage to a winter crop that's growing adjacent to it. I don't know if it's possible for us to, either through maybe the Snowmobile Club has them actively available as far as, you know, please stay on marked trails or something like that, or something we could maybe invest in the future, just to have them and kind of share that, I guess, awareness as far as making sure people realize that the peanut line is technically, it's 100 feet wide. The trail itself is more or less 25, 30. And the adjacent property is not owned by the township. It's not licensed through this, or they don't have a lease through it. So just to encourage, you know, users where it tends to be the end of the season where the snow starts to fade, and the, you know, people see the opportunity to jump off and run through the field to save the machine. I don't blame them at the end of the day with the cost of them, but you could be damaging somebody's winter crop that's adjacent to it, and causing losses there. And I'm assuming we're going to be the ones to answer those phone calls and not the club itself. So just to encourage users that way.
No, that's a fair point. Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. To speak to that point, and Councillor McDonnell is 100%, that it's the biggest challenge that the Federation, the Ontario Federation is working on now, is to try to keep people on the trails so that we don't lose our trails. There's 36,000 kilometers or something like this of trails in Ontario, and we really would like to see them stay that way, and we do lose some every year. Landowners get frustrated that people don't stay on the trail. So when you buy your trail pass now, you're forced to watch a video before you can buy the trail pass. It's online. You're forced to watch a video that explains it, tells, that goes through some education to try to keep people on the trails realize that this is, a reason that we're losing different trails. So, and we do have signs that say stay on the trails and please, this sort of thing. So if there's need, the club would be willing to put some more up along the peanut line if that is warranted.
Well, that's a very, very fair point. It was brought to my attention that I wouldn't like somebody driving their truck in my garden at home and spinning the tires, and it's very true. You wouldn't accept that, so we can't accept people going into the crops. All right, I don't think I have to read the motion again. All those in favor? Carried. Moving to key information reports, draft South Glengarry Strategic Plan 2024-2026. Mr. Fothrop.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. We've got a draft copy of a strategic planning document for council. As you're aware, earlier this summer in June, council participated in a strategic planning vision session to try and formulate a strategic plan. The facilitators have provided a report summarizing the highlights of that session. And I'd like to thank Ms. Compo as well for her work in drafting this strategic plan based on the highlights summarized in that report. And so they are presented to council as a draft for feedback, and administration will receive any feedback council has and make any required edits and bring it back to council at a future meeting for approval and adoption.
And you'd like some of that feedback probably this evening, and then if we can think of something, we can email it to yourself and the clerk?
Yes, through you, absolutely, anytime, either at this meeting or afterwards in the coming weeks before our next meeting, or before our anticipated timeline to bring it back. Yeah, we are open to receiving that feedback.
Thank you. Having thought on this long and hard, I know that not all my words will carry, but if you'll allow me just a quick moment, if we look at our vision and our mission, which is on page 45, and you've heard this argument once before, so I'm just trying to bring it back, and we can quickly discuss it because you can tell me no. So we are a thriving, sustainable, and innovative community, and our mission is a community where innovative infrastructure. And we had some back and forth on that word, so we had said we'd think about it back in June, and I'd like to put forth a thriving, sustainable, and resourceful community, because I think a resourceful community can also be innovative. And also, where it says innovative infrastructure, I would love to have well-maintained infrastructure. Aside from that, I'm not going to pick on words, but those words to me are important, but I understand that administration also had some favor towards those words, so I'm not discounting that. I'm just, if anybody wants to say thumbs up with those words or something else, or we can just keep it as is and we still can come back. So I'm seeing Sam gives me a thumbs up, and I kind of feel like that's where we started, and then Councillor Bougie, Councillor McDonnell, and then Councillor Bougie, I think, was the one who liked innovative, so we'll start this again. Councillor Bougie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I remember having a heated debate here on this very topic, and I feel like we agreed on innovative, and now we're bringing it back. But I do like the layout of mission and our vision statement, and I still agree with the innovative community. I mean, resourceful community, innovative community. I mean, a lot of people can think they're very similar words, but I always like the word innovative in that spot there. But I'm not gonna beat a dead horse over it. But that would be my preference.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Jaworski, and then Deputy Mayor Lang. And
I mean, innovative or resourceful, honestly, like it's half a dozen. Like I don't have a preference one or the other. If someone's really wedded to one, then, but I'm fine either way. In terms of the mission, though, if I'm reading this correctly and if my memory's still good, what I understand is what's on the screen is what staff is proposing, but what's on the staff report were the two mission statements that were preferred by council, which are somewhat different. And One thing that seemed somewhat missing, and I know that, and maybe folks can speak to it. I think this is already included in the general theme, but like there was a theme of cooperation and working with others, both within the community and outside our own community. But I don't really see that in this newer version, and I felt like that was something that was important. So that's my comment.
So if I may draw council's attention, I think that would be in page 41, 5B, as an alternative option for the mission would be to provide quality public service in a timely and competent manner, and to work with the cooperation of the community and other local government units to create a vibrant and healthy physical, social, and economic environment. So that one was, I think, voted 7-7, and the other one was 6, so they were all very close to the top. That one carries some of your cooperative message, but I don't know if that's one that we wish to put into the document instead of the one that's presently there.
I'm not suggesting it's like a one-for-one like replacement. Just like if there's feedback, that's sort of something that I feel is kind of missing in the current proposal.
Okay, then for council, over the next week and a day, we'll consider that, and we can get back to administration. As I saw, only myself and Councillor McDonnell's thumb up for the changes we can keep innovative in, because we're allowed to lose 2 to 3. Deputy Mayor Lang, or maybe I didn't see a thumb up.
There's no thumb up here. And the reason is because you're arguing about statements that I think are so long and cumbersome that nobody can remember what in the world you're talking about anyway. I wanted to keep it simple if you want to bring it back up, and just say, I'd like to continue to be the best place to live. Simple, done. I'm still voting for it, but anyway. I was outvoted that day. But I mean, the other ones, I don't think it matters. It's just a lot of flowery stuff.
No, fair. So we will keep the vision as is, and then give some consideration to the cooperative note for the mission, and that would maybe be looking at 5B on page 41, and then comparing it to page 45 under the mission, to see if we can put a little bit of collaborative wording in there. Otherwise, are there comments or concerns over the rest of the document? Deputy Mayor Lang?
Just not to be negative, I think the rest of it's great.
True. Are there? Yeah. And thank you for bringing this back, and thank you to all who participated in June. This was done on Friday and Saturday morning, so we were all working. So, okay. Well, then with that, get your comments into the CO and clerk regarding any thoughts towards the mission. The vision stands. The rest stands too. Great document. We'll move to consent agenda. The items pulled were 10E, resolution updates to the Municipal Elections Act, Township of North Glengarry. I believe this was Deputy Mayor Lang pulled this one. Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you. I guess I did. Just got to find it. Page 59, I think. And I don't claim to know a lot about it, but North Glengarry is asking for time to update the Municipal Elections Act, and they give a lot of reasons, and they seem to make sense. And I guess our clerk is saying that maybe there is some need to do something like that, so maybe Kelly could speak to it. But I would vote to support North Glengarry in the resolution.
Thank you. Ms. Campo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. So this resolution that's come to us from our neighbors in North Glengarry was speared by AMCTO, the Association for Municipal Treasurers, Clerks, and CAOs for Ontario. They're doing a lot of advocacy work right now, looking to modernize and update the Municipal Elections Act. So they put a call out to all Ontario municipalities. As this was AMCTO's original correspondence was on a previous council agenda. So there's been a lot of support for this resolution throughout the municipality. Certainly something that, as the clerk, I would support and encourage council to support. So I'm happy to bring a resolution back at our next meeting if that's the will of council.
Straw poll, thumbs up. Okay, please bring it back. We'll go to resolution calling for investment in municipal infrastructure for Eastern Ontario's small and rural communities.
I think that's me as well.
Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. maybe from yourself as well. It comes to us from the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and they're doing quite a bit of work to try to lobby on behalf of the 103 municipalities that they represent. And I think all of us know the challenges that we have to try to figure out ways that we're going to, in the long term, keep our infrastructure up. We know that we have millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure and a certain amount of tax base that we can't stretch too far, and we can't burden them too heavily. So this resolution is going out asking that the upper levels of government come to the table and try, instead of downloading, try to help us out. It's a long resolution whenever it comes time to read it there. Glad it's not me.
I have to have another glass of water before I read that one if we approve it. It is a good point to bring up because in looking towards like fiscal circumstances of the year, so our GDP as Canada is going up, but our GDP per capita is going down. It's like having 5 people in the room making $100, bringing a 6th person in and making 105. Like we are making more, but individually we are poorer, and people are actually feeling that. And that stems to this. And I looked at another document recently, and municipalities have 9% of the revenue, but 66% of the infrastructure. So this is trying to make that a little bit more fair because we have an undue burden, and people see us first. They don't see others. So, all right, is there support around the table? Okay, great, thank you. So we'll have a resolution for that. Oh,
There is a resolution that
resolution ready? Oh, sorry.
attached if you wanted to.
Oh, great. I don't even get to practice it. I'm happy to do it. Just
I don't know what the rest of the council thinks, but to me, the whereases are kind of a preamble. If you read the therefore be resolved would likely cover what we're actually asking for.
well, I can read the whole thing. So we got thumbs up. Can I get a mover as then Deputy Mayor Lang, seconder, Councillor McDonnell. So the resolution calling for investment in municipal infrastructure for Eastern Ontario's small and rural communities, moved by Deputy Mayor, I should have wrote that all down, Lang, and seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Step in one moment. Whereas Eastern Ontario's small rural municipalities face insurmountable challenges to fund both new growth-related infrastructure and ongoing maintenance of their capital assets, including local roads and bridges, clean water, waste facilities, and municipally owned buildings, including recreational facilities and libraries. Whereas the Federation of Canadian Municipalities has calculated that governments across Canada, I just said this, are responsible for approximately 60% of the public infrastructure that supports our economy and quality of life, but only receives 10 cents of every tax dollar. And whereas the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, EOWC, region's capital infrastructure deficit has increased by 58% since 2011 and is now at $6 billion and growing. Whereas in 2018, the Ontario government mandated all Ontario municipalities to develop and fully fund capital asset management plans by July 2025, and whereas the EOWC has released a regional municipal infrastructure policy paper showing key infrastructure data, opportunities, and challenges in small rural municipalities across Eastern Ontario, and whereas Eastern Ontario is a growing economy that can grow more with sustainable, innovative infrastructure partnerships and investments from federal and Ontario governments, and whereas the infrastructure deficit for small rural municipalities can be adequately addressed through property tax revenue, restricted municipal borrowing capacity, and municipalities' limited ability to generate revenue. Whereas small rural taxpayers cannot afford dramatic increases to pay for the current and future infrastructure. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township of South Glengarry joins the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in calling on the federal and Ontario government to immediately and sustainably partner with municipal governments by investing in both of the new and ongoing maintenance and repairs of municipal infrastructure in Eastern Ontario's small rural municipalities, and that the federal and Ontario governments immediately review data and work together to implement solutions based on the EOWC's Municipal Infrastructure Policy Paper in partnership with small rural municipalities, and finally that this resolution be forwarded to the Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities of Canada, the Ontario Minister of Infrastructure, the Ontario Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Ontario Minister of Rural Affairs, the Ontario Minister of Finance, the Ontario Minister of Transportation, the Ontario Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, MP Eric Duncan, MPP Nolan Quinn, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. Everybody heard that? Don't have to read it again? Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Back to it. So the consent agenda, yes. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. Board and committee updates. As this is new, I don't want to put it on Deputy Mayor Lang this time, so I pulled up the Raisin River Conservation Authority. What we talked about was the fee schedules. So fees are going up. We talked previously about like camping and such. Those are going up about 2 to 4% on balance, but these are the ones that municipalities and ratepayers do for not amendments, but like in the severance application process, their permissions. Pre-budget overview seems like it will be fairly modest. Statement of operations. We're on track, basically tracking near 10 out of 12. We're following fairly well. And we're revising our board of directors meeting schedule to meet at 9 a.m. So that's possibly going to the new year. And we may be changing which Thursday it is. Right now it's the middle Thursday. Was there anything else you wish to add as former chair?
No, that sounds good.
Okay. And as we have meetings like airport commission, et cetera, we can put these on there just to update everybody in the community.
Could I make a point there?
Yes, please.
Could we list all of our committees, kind of like they do at county council? And then, because I think it's good to know sometimes that there hasn't been meetings, and it kind of, makes you wonder, okay, well, maybe there's been 6 months without a meeting, and you can evaluate your committees a little bit that way too. Sometimes you kind of know how active they are.
I would like that too.
And then we'll just say no meeting or not.
Okay, perfect. And we can put the members who are on it, and then that way it can just point to. Okay, great. The library board newsletter, I think it's there. The library board's pretty good with their information. You can see it there. It was brought up. Mayor Jason Broad is very good at at talking about the library. But we had our draft budget discussion. Where we are depleting all surplus and reserves to try to keep the SDG County as a whole budget a little bit lower. That was a decision taken 2024 budget at the counties that there's no use having a surplus for no reasons. Friends of the Library policy, that's a wonderful thing. So if you want to become a friend, some are more active than others, but it does help with, I'd say, activities and the fundraising for your local branches. So we don't have Long Sault or Williamstown. So if anybody's interested, Councillor Bougie in Lancaster, you can start a Friends of group, and they'd be glad to help have you. Most of these groups started when libraries were closing, so they often come, like don't waste a good crisis. But we can also, at the same time, support our libraries even in good times. So the SDG Library Board continues to produce a decent update. So this is part of their commitment to share that information. Are there any questions to me about that, or any guidance you can provide for me that you want me to bring to council or the boards? Okay. Notice of motion, resolution, Ontario Deposit Return Program. This one was moved by Councillor Bougie, and then looking for a seconder. Councillor Jaworski. Councillor Bougie, would you like to speak to it for a moment?
Well, just to reiterate, I did speak to it last time, but just as there's deposits on alcohol or liquor bottles at the moment, this is to put it one step forward onto other containers or bottles to have a deposit.
Excellent. Probably encourage more recycling. So resolution, Ontario Deposit Return Program, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Whereas the Ontario Deposit Return Program has successfully incentivized the recycling of alcohol beverage containers, resulting in the removal of over 204,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions, and whereas the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks highlighted that they are considering the adoption of a deposit and return system for non-alcoholic beverage, and whereas this initiative presents a unique opportunity to further promote recycling, reduce litter, and encourage sustainable practices among consumers. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township of South Glengarry hereby supports the town of Bradford, West Wimmlebury's endorsement to expand the Ontario Deposit Return Program to include non-alcoholic beverage containers. And furthermore, that the copy of this resolution be sent to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, MPP Nolan Quinn, and the town of West Wimmlebury. All those in favor? Carried. We will now be going into closed session, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that council convene to closed session at 8:02 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act SO 2001. 2. A meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is B. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, specifically identifiable individual. K. A position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to negotiations, specifically instructions for negotiations. All those in favor? Oh,
There should be a third item on there related to C, potential disposition of land.
okay. And we will also have C, potential for disposition of land. Just writing that down. All those in favor? Carried. Before closing out, I forgot to do something nice and highlight something. So our general manager, McDonald, Ms. McDonald, competed in Worlds for Ultimate Frisbee with a Canadian team called Stella, and they came in 6th. So congratulations to you for doing that and taking the trek and representing Canada well. Thank you. And we'll go into closed session now. Hello and welcome back. Moving out of closed session, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that council rise and reconvene into open session at 9:24 p.m. without reporting. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in the closed session minutes. All those in favor? Carried. Confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-75, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 18th day of November 2024. All those in favor? Carried. Before calling to adjournment, I would like to say that this is the last month in which we have a Deputy Mayor Warden-elect. Next month, I believe we're all invited to go for his inauguration. Congratulations, Martin, for the probably fifth or sixth time. I'm going to embarrass you a few more times by bringing it up, but congratulations again for that opportunity, and look forward to you representing and standing as our warden at SDG Council. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 9:25 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. I suppose it's not live, so whenever you're watching this, have a good morning, everyone.